Hey everybody, it's Sapi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Assault on Precinct 13. This is continuing with the theme of the movies that I've been reviewing for the past week or so. And anyways, I just wanted to give a quick little update because I know that you guys, if you watch all my videos, you probably would expect one. If you don't, then just, whatever. I just like to do that because I think it's something that YouTubers should do, like if they, or just writers should do. If you introduce a storyline, you always have to finish it. You always have to have some sort of resolution, some sort of place where it goes, or else it's just like, oh, you're a shitty writer. But this isn't a story. Anyways, if you guys have been following my cursed object story, what happened was very funny. And I talked about in the Goonies review how the person who I gave this object to, she finally threw it away. And it was funny because on the same day of throwing it away, we both had to pay a $500 fine. And it was like, you see how weird it is? Like, you see, this stuff just doesn't happen on a coincidence. What happened was the shitty-ass place that we're supposed to go after we leave here, which hopefully will not happen. And I know that it's bad to say it like that if you're using magic, because that means like you're already framing it as if it won't happen. But I'm just speaking honestly on this video. The place, they ran like a credit card background check, and usually you're only supposed to pay a $300 deposit, but we had to pay $500 for some reason. Which makes no sense whatsoever, and he couldn't even, they can't even find out, like, why it is. And so that was the other weird part, was that, like, she had to pay a $500 fine for her car to be repaired, and it was a repair that basically made it to where she would not get in a fatal car accident. And then for us, we had to pay a $500 fine. And so I thought that was very strange, very, very weird. It just shows that, like, all this stuff is connected. And that's the unfortunate part, is that if I hadn't have gotten this in the first place, none of this would have been like this. But immediately after she threw it away, I noticed a change of look. And the next day, when I reviewed, that was the Goonies day. What I did was I finally went to Goodwill, the bins, to shop for props and wardrobe. And it was such a great experience. It was so much fun. And it immediately felt like, everything is coming back now. Everything good is going to happen now. And I found like a brooch, and it was basically like a yellowish greenish butterfly brooch, which was strange because I wanted to get a lightning bug brooch, and it was basically like a lightning bug type of brooch that you could use. And I got that, and I was getting all these things that I actually wanted for this film. I got a pair of shoes that are perfect for the film. They kind of look like Michael Myers' shoes a little bit. I think they're called Nuns or something. And then I also got some shoes which were like some nice Super Mario slippers that are going to be comfortable to wear. And then I also got a pair of women's genuine leather 1960s actually, cowgirl style boots, and they're perfect. They're absolutely perfect. And then I got a purse that is like an extremely expensive, rare purse from the 70s. I just happened to find it, and it just happened to be like in almost perfect condition, and I found all these other things that were just like so perfect in this weird way. Excuse me, it's so perfect that it was like bizarre. It was like very weird but awesome at the same time. And the moment where I really knew what was going on was when I picked up this, I can't remember, I think it was a sweater. It's like a sweater, a jacket type of thing, and it looks very old school. I got all these clothes that were like made in USA. They're all like old school. A lot of great stuff I got. And the sweater thing that I got, guess what word it had? It had like Celio inside the thing on the tag, or CeeLo. And I thought, uh-oh. Like, you guys see how weird it gets? I mean, it's just weird. It's so weird. And then on top of that, yesterday, I got Wendy's again because Wendy's was so terrible on Tuesday. They did such a terrible job. They gave me regular nuggets instead of spicy ones. And of course, that was before she threw the object away. Well, I got it again, and it was really, really good. But it was so weird because what happened was I got food poisoning from Wendy's for the third time ever. And it was like a parallel with the first day when I bought the object. I had the same meal and I had the same food poisoning that I got. And so that's bizarre. And I had these terrible, like, stabbing, horrible pains in my stomach. And then, of course, I have food poisoning. You know what that means. And it was weird because it was like a parallel of, oh, I bought the object, now I'm throwing it away. So it had to be like a bookend. And so I thought that was very weird. So anyways, that's just that. That's all the update that I have. And so I am here, as I said before, to review Assault on Precinct 13. Now this movie, it's another movie like The Goonies where it's just perfection. I mean, this is one of the greatest movies ever made. It's one of the greatest, like, it's just so perfect in every single way, shape, or form. There's really only one flaw, probably, that I could say, like, yeah, they could have improved that more. But other than that, like, this is just, it's perfect. It's like, I wish that there were more movies like this nowadays. Like, this was John Carpenter's first film, basically, and it's so impressive. It's so awesome, like, how much he did with such little. Like, that's the thing about when people make their first movies. The smartest thing to do is to make a lot with a little, from what I've seen. Like, if you look at all the people's, like, first movies, it's always better whenever they use the resources they have and don't try to overextend themselves and do too much. And another example, of course, which fits in with this film, is Night of the Living Dead. This is basically, as people have said, and as I think the director has said, this movie is like Night of the Living Dead in a police station in the middle of a city, and it is just so good. I mean, from beginning to end, the highlight of the movie is the music. And I'm not gonna do the theme because I don't want to, I know how YouTube is with their little copyright bullshit, and so I don't want to start, emulating. I could, though. I could literally start, doing the dun, dun. I'm not going to do the rest. But you know what it is. The music in this movie is so fantastic. This is probably, I would say it's one of the greatest film scores of all time. I mean, it could have been, there could have been more songs probably, because I noticed that some of them were used multiple times. But for what he made, he just did this all by himself. And it's like, it's a grade A score. It is a grade A theme. It is a grade A. There's so many songs in this movie that are just, they fit the scenes perfectly. They amplify everything that goes on. They don't overpower the movie. They're perfect songs. And if you guys don't know, too, the reason why Donald Pleasance agreed to do the Halloween movie, which is like everyone's favorite John Carpenter movie, the reason why he chose to do that was because he listened to this score, and his son apparently loved the music, and he listened to it and he was like, wow, that's pretty good. And so that's why he actually did Halloween. And I don't blame him. I mean, I gotta be honest, I think the music is better than Halloween. I think this film is better than Halloween. I mean, it has more to it. It has a lot more smarter characters too. That the characters are just so much more smarter than the ones in Halloween. They're a lot more likable. The villains are a lot more scarier. I mean, Michael Myers, he used to be like my favorite. Like, I loved Michael Myers so much. I wanted to make like a video game, a Halloween video game. I thought, it would be so much fun if you could be Michael Myers and just walk around an entire city, like stalking people and killing them like Michael Myers. And I came up with this whole design and everything. And then I thought it would be really cool to remake Halloween 5, which was terrible. I thought the trailer was actually better than the movie. And I came up with this whole story, and there was this one time where I got a Michael Myers mask, and I painted all this corn syrup blood, and I painted all these like scratches on it, and I put dirt and leaves all over it. And then what I did was I buried the mask in my front yard. I buried it, and I left the mask under the ground for like a month. And then I got it out just to make like the perfect creepy Michael Myers mask to try to improve off of the generic one that you could get from the Halloween store. And, I loved Michael Myers, but now I really despise him. Like, he's just such a trash character after what Blumhouse has done to this character. Plagiarizing all the movies, mashing them all together, and then saying, this is better than those because it's connected to the first one. And like Blumhouse, what they did with the Halloween franchise is almost like, it's really disgraceful. Like, it's really like shameful. They did the same thing that they did with the Scream. And then in Scream, they made this whole excuse where they said, it's a formula. They're called requels, and fans love them. You don't want to make a sequel and do something different because that never works out. Wink, wink, even though we know that it works out almost every time. I mean, there's countless examples of that working. Like, just think about Brides of Dracula, which was extremely different from Horror of Dracula. That movie doesn't even have Dracula in it. And it's my favorite one. It's my second favorite one, actually. Dracula AD 1972 is my favorite. But that Brides of Dracula is actually like one of the best. Even though it's so much different than all the other ones in the Hammer Dracula series. And so just what a bunch of bullshit. And if they're so bad, then why do you just copy them all the time? Like, okay, that's a tangent. But I just can't help it. It really pisses me off. Because I can't turn away from Halloween like I did with Star Wars and all those other franchises that SJW's ruined. So anyways, Michael Myers, he's now become like this cartoony old man caricature where it's like he doesn't have any reason, but actually he does because he's evil. And evil always has a reason. Like, even being evil to be evil, that's still a reason to be evil. And so the villains in Assault on Precinct 13, you know exactly why they're doing what they're doing, and that's what makes them scary. Because you understand that what happened to them at the beginning of the movie, where you have this gang. I think they're called like Thunder Boom or Thunder Strike or Street Thunder or something. Very, very, very kind of wimpy, like punk title that you'd think like a bunch of kids made. You have this gang, and it's like a multicultural gang too. That's another thing they pointed out in the movie. Like, it's a very diverse gang of killers. Like, they don't discriminate who can join their gang of killers. Like, they really do not care. They're just like people who want to commit evil. And at the beginning of the movie, these police, they catch them, and then they just start killing them for no reason, and they massacre like all these gang members who they drop their weapons. I think they're standing there not doing anything. They're surrendering, and they get killed anyway. And it's the perfect setup, because it's just like with Better Call Saul, like where he's supposed to get killed by these guys who are the best of the best. I'm sorry, I just still laugh at how bad that show was. It just got so bad. The best of the best. Well, I mean, at least in Assault on Precinct 13, the police actually wanted to kill all these gang members for no reason. Like, it wasn't like they're like, look, we got the best of the best to just take out one of them. And then they just kill all these innocent ones instead. But in Better Call Saul, you have Lalo, this character who's like an undefined character. He's like a villain, I guess, even though he's basically an anti-hero by the end of his story in the show. And his whole family gets brutally killed by this team of retards who come in and, they're hired by another villain, and they just kill all these innocent people. And it makes you root for this villainous character, Lalo. And it makes you understand, like, yeah, I want him to get his vengeance for sure. Like, I don't care who he has to kill. I don't care if he kills more innocent people now, because he deserves some sort of a retribution. Not innocent people, but you know what I mean. Like, even if he kills, like, a bunch of henchmen that work for Gus who have never done anything to him, like, they all deserve it, frankly. And so the same thing happened with this movie, where, like, you really are kind of rooting for these gang members to some degree, because, they didn't deserve to die. Like, they deserved to be arrested for stealing all those guns with the silencers. But, wait, no, they did that after the massacre. Okay, well, whatever. See, and that's another great thing about this movie that I wanted to touch upon, is that, nowadays, if they made this movie, what it would be all about. It would be all about BLM, 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 police bad, police bad, police bad, institutional racism, all that bullshit. But the thing is in this 1970s movie, they show that there's, like, bad police officers, there's good ones, they show that there's, like, a full spectrum, and they show that, like, they have this bad reputation, and that, there's a lot of bad ones, like especially that warden, who, he kind of looked like a slave owner type of character, the way that he was dressed, and he had this look about him, like, you could totally imagine him, and then you had that guy from Halloween, Sheriff Brackett. His character, really, really shitty, evil, like, establishment figure. And what I love about the movie, though, is that it doesn't really make it about being a cop that makes these men bad. It's about being part of the establishment and being like this, being these people who abuse their authority, and people who are just so authoritarian that, like, all the main characters, they're all the underdogs. They're all the people who fight the establishment, even the villains. That's the funny part, is even the villains of the movie are these characters who are like underdogs who fight the establishment. And I really thought that was cool, because nowadays you know exactly what they do. And you know exactly that the movie would be terrible. It would be a cringeworthy agenda fest. It would be a piece of shit, and it would be the worst thing ever made. But since this was the 70s, it was fantastic. And they still managed to get messages out about how, there's a lot of bad police officers like the ones in this film. They abuse their power. They get away with it because they're police and they can do whatever they want practically. And at the end of the movie, it's not really a completely happy ending, And so you have all these other characters who are like, they're all going to meet together in Precinct 13. Excuse me, sorry. And this police station in Precinct 13, it's closing down. And they're all packing up, they're all leaving, and they have this new recruit who comes in, and he's basically like Ben from Night of the Living Dead, and he comes in to sort of watch over everything and make sure that the transition works okay, and that they move out just fine. And then you have, at the same time, this character, probably one of the greatest characters in film history, probably one of the greatest actors in film history, even though he doesn't really have many movies to watch, because he was like criminally underrated by the studios, and that is Napoleon. Napoleon, he's some sort of like a high-class criminal who killed some people or something. They don't really tell you. And so that's another instance. He's sort of like, I guess you could say, he's like a heroic Michael Myers. But the thing is that throughout the movie, the choices that he makes and the way that he acts, you can sort of figure out that, like, either he killed people that he shouldn't have killed, and that he'll always know that, and that, he can't really change what he did. He can only change what he does in the future, or he killed people and he had a reason to kill them, and it's just unfortunate, because that's, killing is bad, and you can't kill people. You can't just go around killing people unless you're in a video game or something, or you're in a dream. And so Napoleon's character, even though you don't find out exactly why he's named Napoleon, it's a nickname, and you don't find out why he killed whoever he killed, he's still an incredible character, because he's so likable. He's such a badass. He is so awesome. There's this really awesome part where I think it might be Nancy, I don't know, the main female character. She's really, really good, but I just can't remember her name. Because when I think of the females in this movie, they have this woman named Julie, and I always think of her because there's a song named after her, and so I just think Julie. I don't really think of the other character's name, and I don't really know all the characters' names either. By the way, it's not just her. So there's this part where she says, "Why didn't you climb into the sewer and just run the other way?" Because they had this way out where they could crawl through the sewer, and they have another one of them use it to try to escape and use a car to go get help, and of course that gets fucked up. And that's actually, I think, my favorite part of the movie, because I loved how every single way that they tried to get out of this situation was a fail. It was a complete failure, and they couldn't. They had to stay there and fight. They had to stay there and fight until their very last bullet, their very last breath, until help finally arrived at the end. But he says something like, a couple of things like, you never run away from someone who can't defend themselves, or something like that. Like, and he's talking about, there's another character, and he's like this grandpa, and he was taking his granddaughter to go talk to someone about moving in with them. I think it was maybe the grandma, I don't really know. And then he's calling someone on a payphone, and of course we have the infamous ice cream truck sequence, which is probably another highlight of the film, because what happens is so anti-movies today that it's just fucking awesome. What happens is, you have this ice cream truck guy, and he sees that the street thunder, they're rolling around, and they're gonna probably kill him because they're like stalking him, because what they're doing is they're going around trying to find the perfect targets to kill, so that the police will get really mad and upset, like in kind of like in Dirty Harry, the way that Scorpio is going around killing these certain people, because that's the certain people he wants to target and kill. He's not just randomly going around shooting people. So they find an ice cream truck guy, they kill him, and then the little girl, she wanted to get some ice cream, and she didn't get her little vanilla twist, so she came back to the ice cream truck, and then they shoot her too, and they show it too, and oh my god, it is just the greatest thing I've ever seen. I mean, when I first watched this movie last year, I was like cheering. I was like clapping and cheering. I was so happy to see this child character get killed, because I thought, they won't do this in any other movie. Like, they won't do this in movies in 2021, 2022, because they don't have any balls. But John Carpenter would. He would do this in a 1970s movie. And it was so perfect, because it's like, oh, wow, I never would have expected this to happen. And it was so violent, too. Like, I mean, I think that's the most graphic scene of the whole film. It's the most graphic shot. You see this, she's wearing, like, this bright yellow outfit, yellow and white, and you see this big splatter of, like, bright red blood, and it's just so perfect. And it's like, yeah, I was clapping, I was cheering. Like, that would be a cheer-worthy moment if you saw this movie at the drive-in theater in the 70s. That would be like a yeah moment, because it's like, that it's terrible, but it's such a great plot point. It's such a great plot motivator, too, in a weird way. Because, like, who wouldn't root for people to get revenge for someone killing their kid, And so, then this grandpa, he's probably the most underrated character of the movie, because then he gets a gun. He tracks this gang down. He tries to shoot at them. I think he kills maybe one, or he doesn't kill anyone, because he's never shot a gun before, probably. And he fails, and that's when he runs to this closing down police station. And to me, it's like one of the greatest setups in movie history. Like, I was talking the other day about how Barbarian was a great setup. This is a great setup in a movie. It's so perfect the way that everything works out. And this character, this grandfather character, he doesn't talk or do anything for the rest of the film. He just sits there in a comatose state, like Barbara in Night of the Living Dead. And I just thought that was so epic. You have this character, you don't know who he is, you don't know why he's there, you don't know why this gang wants to kill him, and these people are still going to defend him, because it's like, he came to this police station for help, and it's like, we're not just going to give him away to them. Like, no, we're going to help this guy because that's what police are supposed to do. That's what good police are supposed to do. And so then, of course, there's also a very coincidental thing where one of the prisoners riding with Napoleon and this other guy, he's sick. And so they stop at this precinct, this station, to let them, like, rest for a couple hours. And then what happens is that, of course, they can't leave. And so then, surprisingly, probably one of the only disappointing things about the film is that Sheriff Brackett gets killed, like, right away. Which I thought was sad because at first he had this really great dynamic with Ben, the Ben type of character, and he was sort of like the Cooper stand-in, and I was expecting for him to have more great interaction with them, and it would have been so much more, like, intense, but he gets killed right away, which I will say, like, at least it was a good twist, but still, I think it would have been better for him to get killed when Julie gets killed, because they have this moment where, like, they talk about when Julie gets killed, they say that the gang members drag the dead bodies away. Like, that was another creepy thing, was, you know, we never really find out what they did with these bodies or what they wanted to do with them. And so that was another really creepy thing. And I know you guys hear that noise. That's what we have to hear all the time around here now. Like, all the time. It's so annoying. It's so obnoxious. Never used to hear that at all around here, but now that's all we hear all the time. And, anyways, so I really love this movie. Like, there's so many things to talk about that are just so epic. Like, even just the small details, like these small funny lines. Like, they have this one, probably the greatest line of the film, which is Napoleon. People keep on asking him, rightfully so, they keep on asking him, why are you named Napoleon? And he's like, I'll tell you sometime, which is just code for I'm never going to tell you, because it's none of your damn business. And so he first tells Sheriff Brackett, I'll tell you at the moment of death what the meaning of my name is, why people call me that. And then, of course, that never really gets any payoff with him, because Sheriff Brackett gets killed, and it's like, bye-bye, Sheriff Brackett, you're dead. And then the Ben character asks him, why are you named Napoleon? And they're just about to face off the bad guys for the last time. And he says, I'll tell you in a minute or two. So that was the payoff for that whole setup, was just another character asking him that, and then it being like, uh-oh, they're about to die. Because what ends up happening is that they all are just completely worn out. You know, Nancy, which I will say too, she did a really good job. Like, I loved all the characters equally. Like, I really thought that this was a perfect ensemble. They all complemented each other so well that it was such a treat to watch, like, this whole film, to see how just all the moments, the little moments that they all had together, it was perfect. It was so perfect. Another great moment, of course, is when Napoleon is holding the door closed because the door can't lock or something, and the gang members are kicking it down, and the Ben character, and I keep calling him the Ben character because I can't remember his damn name. Like, he's really, really good in the film. I just can't remember his damn name. He breaks open this box of guns at the perfect time, and he throws a shotgun to Napoleon, and Napoleon, like, shoots, like, 4 guys in, like, 2 seconds, and it's just such a badass moment. And it's like, see, like, these characters, they trust each other. They respect each other. And you know, it's so much different than, like, how all these other police treated him. And it just shows, like, really this movie it's all about how to be a good cop 101. It's, to me, I would say that like every police officer should watch this film before they complete their training, because it shows you this is what they mean by protect and serve. This is what they mean by, like, when you become a police officer, it's not an excuse for you to abuse your authority. It's not an excuse for you to treat people like criminals. It's not an excuse for you to, get back at the bullies from high school. It's for you to serve your community. And that's what the people, both the criminals and the police, that's what these people do in this film. They're helping their community. They're helping, they're doing all of this just for this one guy who came running in there who can't even talk because he's in such shock and he's so scared. And another great thing in this movie is the lighting. The lighting in this movie is like that of a horror movie. And there are so many scary, creepy moments where you see the bad guys creeping behind the trees, and they're like hiding behind them, and then they walk all together. They're all in sync with each other, and they're not only like zombies. To me, they're almost like Terminators. Like they're like an army of Terminators, and they're really terrifying villains. The one thing that I will say, though, is that I think that the villains needed a leader, at least. Like, I think that that blonde guy, I think he should have, like, tried talking to them, because none of the bad guys ever even say anything to these guys. Like, you'd think that at one point they'd be like, guys, come on, just give us that old man and we'll be just fine. Or, that you'd think they'd say something. You'd think they'd say something at some point, but no, they're just going to kill them. They're just going to kill them all, and that's it. And what the movie ends on is they're really out of resources. They're out of time. They don't know whenever help will arrive because the power's lost, the telephone lines are down. It's really bad situation, to say the least. Like, it's pretty much the worst situation anyone could ever be in history, next to people who were in concentration camps, basically. Like, that's what this is, like, second place. That would be first place. Worst situation to be in history. They're cornered, and they go down into the basement. They only have a couple of bullets. They have like a shield type of thing, and then they have this canister that will explode. And so basically, and then they have some Molotovs. And so they have to just stand there in the corner, like holding off like an army of bad guys. And it's just so awesome. It's so action-packed. It's so good. I just can't emphasize enough how good this movie is. Like, it's just one of the greatest things ever made, even though it's his first movie. And that's what's so scary. Like, just imagine making this as your first movie. Like, every movie afterwards, you would be in fear that you're not living up to Assault on Precinct 13, to be quite honest. So they hold the line, and they use all the stuff that they have, all the resources they have to the best that they can, and then finally help arrives. And that's what I loved about the film too, is that it really showed you, it's one of those things where, you shouldn't ever give up, because you never know when success is going to come. You never know when, the breakthrough is going to happen. And it takes until like the last minute of the movie or so for the police to finally show up and help them. But they wait, and they're not going to give up. They're going to die too. And so you have these two opposing teams of people. You have the good side and the bad side. None of them are going to give up. None of them are going to let the other side win. And so it's going to take a third party. And it's just so awesome. And one of the sad things about the movie, though, is that Napoleon, he is supposed to get the death penalty, and so he was being transferred to death row. And he did not take any chance to escape because he wanted to do the right thing. You don't run away from a man who can't defend himself. And then I think he said you don't run away from your friends either or something. I don't know. Since he decided to stay there and help them and do the good thing and save people's lives, he is still going to go to death row. And to just think, that's another statement about, like, the system, just how disgusting that is. Like, in my opinion, he should have not only been taken off death row, he should have been released, and he should have been given, like, a Medal of Freedom or something. Like, he should have been fully, and that's the other thing, too, like, you don't see any of these characters get rewarded or anything. It's just like another day at the office. And then they're trying to take Napoleon away, just treating him like a criminal again. And then the Bing character's like, no, get the fuck away from him. He's my friend. And then they walk out together. And it's like, it's showing that, like, see, this is a good cop. He has respect for this guy. He's his friend. He's not going to just treat him like a criminal. And it was such an epic moment at the end when they're walking outside together, because it's like, it's a really positive message. I mean, I know that sounds fruity, but it's a very positive, like, empowering type of film in that way. Like, it's a very inspirational type of film. It's inspirational in every way, shape, or form possible. And I really think every actor did a great job. The music's great. Every single aspect of the movie is incredible. The only thing that I would say is Julie. Not the main character, Nancy, because I can't remember her name. She's great. You know, she gets one of her arms shot, and she has to spend the rest of the movie shooting and doing stuff with one hand. But no, Julie is actually the actress who played Annie in Halloween. And she hardly has a character in the film at all. She spends most of the movie going like, what's going on? What's going on? They're gone. I really think they're gone. I really think they're gone. And then finally she's the one who says, let's just hand that old man over. But she never really has an arc. Like, she's basically forced to just, like, be like, yeah, okay, I guess we'll defend him. She never really has an arc, because 2 seconds later she gets killed, like, kind of off screen. And then she's just dead for the rest of the movie. And to me, it really felt like it gave off the impression that just, like, the actress got sick or she became unavailable or something. Like, it really didn't seem like that part of the story was well executed, because her character was just like she was basically like a walking corpse, ready to get, like, killed, thrown on the ground, you know? In terms of food, I would rate this movie, that is really tough. That is really, really tough. I would have to say, though, this movie is like a great barbecue meal. You know, when you make a great barbecue meal, it can't beat anything. And in particular, I'm thinking cooking like a whole rack of ribs. And just when you have a whole rack of ribs, or 2 racks of ribs that are really, really good, and you have corn, you have potato salad, you have all these elements that make up like a classic American barbecue meal. That's what this movie is. It's just there's so many movies like this, The Goonies. What do they do well? They execute every single aspect of the story well. Every single element of the story is equally good. You know, even if this movie isn't the greatest movie of all time, all the elements are they're on equal footing. And that kind of makes the movie consistently good. to where it's like, yeah, this is a really good movie because all the elements work together in synchronicity to make a perfect meal. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought about Assault on Precinct 13, and then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody.